to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. I am so excited to spend another hour with you, having very, very meaningful conversations to help shape our journey forward and continue to grow our community so that together we get it just right. As we think about our conversation today, I want us to take a moment and think about, have you ever had moments of confusion, wondered which way life is taking you, wondered, is this making sense? Am I going down the right path? Why is this happening to me? All these questions and more come through our minds from time to time as life unfolds. That is part of being human. That is part and parcel of living life. But when those moments happen, how are you seeking clarity? And in the process of seeking that clarity, are you consciously choosing to thrive intentionally? And therein lies the opportunity to getting it just right. Goldilocks reminds us that it's always about coming from a place of perspective taking, so that it's not too hard, not too soft, not too hot, not too cold, not too extreme in the way of thinking, and not focused on me and what's happening to me, but looking at the bigger picture and saying, what's going on in the world around us? What is the context in which this is happening? And what are my tools and levers, and what do I have inside me already that's going to help me shape what's going on right now so that I can live a meaningful life and thrive? And also ask the question, who's my network? Who's my support system? How are they going to show up? And how do I invite them in and give them permission to make things successful for me and give them a reason to engage with me? Leadership is about leading ourselves and in that process influencing others. And a successful life requires us to be a leader for our own self in our life. If anybody tells you leadership is about leading others, that truly is a misnomer. Leadership is about leading us and thriving for ourselves with the complete awareness of who we are and how we are living life. And in that process, influencing others so that others choose to follow us. So for our individual journey for intentionally thriving, we really need to rise up and become leaders. And the first step for that is becoming self-aware, getting grounded in who we are and how we are dealing with circumstances. And in that process, learning to manage ourselves. And you're going to absolutely love my guest today. I have Carey Portell here to have a deeply meaningful conversation with you and I on how to move from confusion to clarity. How to move from confusion to clarity, to live and thrive intentionally. Remember, our goal in life is to live and thrive intentionally, not accidentally. Accidents happen in life, but our life has to be lived with intention. Carey, welcome. Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is truly an honor to have you here, Carey. And as we get started, I want you to take a moment and share with our audience, how did you uncover your inner Goldilocks so that you were able to rise above your circumstances and truly choreograph a life that allows you to continue to intentionally thrive? Because you have a powerful story there.
I feel like I did not intentionally find her. It was definitely through a serious circumstance that I feel like forced me to grow. I know we all have a choice of whether we're going to encompass that growth or not, but my situation was pretty extreme and having those deep conversations with myself about how I wanted to handle my situation, how I wanted to continue, I guess, to not just survive, but to be able to live and thrive, like you said, and not just let the situation encompass me completely. So I love that you say intentionally, because that is how I live my life now, due to my circumstances. I am not letting life just pass me by. I try to grab and seize all these special moments in my life. So it is very intentionally. So our we kind of complement each other in that way.
That is relevant to how most people stumble into living with intention, right? Because somewhere along the way, as we grow up and become young adults, that intentionality gets taken away from us because of all the conditioning in our families, in our communities, in our school system. I don't know how that happens. When we are children, we come into this world knowing what we want and how we want to get it, right?
Right.
And even a kitten and a puppy knows how to wrap adults around their little finger and accomplish what they want. So it is inherently in us, but we forget that as we grow up. And then bam, something in life happens. And all of a sudden we go back into ourselves. And those of us who are blessed enough to be able to do that in our work come out with the outcome of intentionality, which then allows us to chart the course. So in this process of finding yourself, why don't you take us back and talk about, if you're so open to, what was the incident that happened and how that tectonically shifted everything for you?
Yes, yes. So definitely a niche in my timeline. There is pre-crash and then there is post-crash. So nearly 12 years ago, two of my children and I were hit head on by a drunk driver. But there was actually 4 vehicles involved. So it was a massive crash and it was fatal. It was primarily him and I that hit. And I remember at that moment of impact, I remember thinking, I'm going to die. There's no way I'm going to make it. It's going to be that bad. But I remember asking God, please save my girls and just take me. And that's pretty much what happened. It's all the damage, all the impact was in my driver's seat, which ended me in a 4-year recovery with partial disabilities. And at this point, I'm doing everything that I possibly can to, I guess, prolong my health. I only get 1,800 steps a day that I can take. So I'm a part-time wheelchair user, and those injuries continue to deteriorate. So I know at some point that I will be a full-time wheelchair user, and I do everything that I possibly can to prolong my life and just enjoy it, because with the deterioration of my injuries, the pain is just always there. It's just some days all encompassing. So it is, I have to coach my own self through those days. I have to take all those words that I'm telling everybody else and use them in my own life, to get me through those really hard moments.
And so it's both heartbreaking and inspiring to hear you, Carey, because heartbreaking that other people's actions have put you in a situation that you didn't ask for, but inspiring because you took what happened to you and you've risen above. And not only did you shape your life to get above what happened, but you're giving back to the community and the world out there so that they build the muscles and build the resiliency to deal with similar or different circumstances so that they are always rising above. And for that, I am so blessed to have this conversation with you. And I know our audience are going to love the message you embody. So how do you see the pre-crash Carey and the post-crash Carey? What did you learn about yourself? And how did this help you become a stronger person? Because you were always a good person. You can't become something you were never, right?
Right, right.
So how have you become stronger?
I feel like the pre-crash Carrie, I mean, I have always been a hard worker, very tenacious in whatever project I was doing at the time, whether it be, a regular job. I had used to have a full-time photography studio and cattle farming, and now this. So that part has not changed, but what it did was it taught me to focus on what I really want to accomplish out of life. Um, I know it's cliche, but what footprint am I going to leave on this earth after I'm gone type thing? What good am I doing while I'm here? So it's really brought into focus that part of what important things do I want to do with my life? And being in this position is not something that I ever desired. Like, I actually was the opposite. I never wanted to be a public speaker, never wanted to be a leader. I was not vulnerable to everyone before the crash. I was only vulnerable to very specific people. And now I can't stop talking to people. I basically puke everything out of my life, that hoping that it will help them in some way, that if they do go through a certain challenge in life, that it's just a moment in time. Like, through hard work, putting your head down, your perspective can be different. I know a lot of people, like, that time in their life is so confusing. They just don't, it's like a whirlwind, and you just want to get out of it and find some clarity. And that's where I feel like my purpose is helping people, to move around those challenges, face them, those limitations that they feel like are just constantly holding them back, and just break through them. And a lot of times it's just asking the right questions, that they're not digging down deep enough inside them to find the answers. And then that's where I come in. And when we work together, it's, you have a choice. You can either take this seriously, dig down and do the work. Otherwise, this isn't going to help you. Maybe it's not the right time in your life. Maybe you need something else, I guess, to happen in your life to open up that moment where you're going to be vulnerable and say, okay, you know what, I'm tired of this. What's going on in my life? I'm going to take control again. So that's where I feel like I come in and just kind of help them with those questions and find that clarity.
And that is powerful. As I hear you speak, I can see that you're passing on what allowed you to rise above. You want to pass it on so that you plant the seeds to leave your legacy, right?
Right.
And as you embrace a life of giving, while you are still going through pain and suffering, how does that help you heal? And how does that make you feel psychologically and spiritually? Because the physical pain is the physical pain, but there is more to you. There is absolutely more to you as a whole person, because you're an embodiment of the heart, spirit, mind, and body. And how does it make you feel when you are able to take the physical limitations, but channel it into all other aspects of your being, so that your being is shining? It's not just resilient, it's shining the light for others.
That's a lovely question that no one has ever asked me. And I'm so proud to be able to talk about that part. I had, during my recovery, it always felt like, hey, man, these lessons are so strong that I can't just keep them to myself. I have to share them with other people so that they can learn from them as well. And at first it was extremely difficult because the emotional and mental pain of what you go through, I feel like is almost more difficult than the physical pain. Like, what is causing the physical pain, and there's certain things you can do to ease it, but the mental and emotional pain, there's nothing you can do unless you make a decision to say, you know what, I'm going to dig down and I'm going to have to work through this the hard way. So I realized in the beginning, like, how difficult it was for me to continue going over all of these details of my life. It was still so raw inside of me. And I realized that every time that I spoke or helped someone through their crisis, that I actually was purging a little bit of that pain that was inside of me. And then I realized, I'm like, I feel lighter. I feel better. And the more that I did that, the more that it became about whoever I was helping and not healing myself. Like, I feel like I'm at a point where I'm pretty good right now. Like, I have found my peace. I have accepted my situation. And now it's time for me to take all those lessons, all the hardships that my family and I have gone through, and be able to use those and teach someone else how to get through their challenge, even if it's completely different from mine. Because all challenges, you have to go through it basically the same way, regardless of intensity. So I love what that part has done for me. I hate that I had to go through what I did to get to this point, but now that's the whole purpose. Like, I have found that thing in life that fulfills me to the very core. And I love it when people want to accept it. Like, I have something that I can help you with if you're willing. So I really enjoy that part. And it's like what they say, it's become your calling.
I love how you're embracing this, Carey, because it's not easy. It is not easy seeing the limitations and the mortality and watching other people always keying into the disability instead of seeing the light and embracing the ability, right? So we live in a world where people see the shortcomings first.
Right.
But every day when other people are judging us, to be able to rise above and surprise them and say, I am more than what I look like. I am more than where I'm sitting. I am more than what you think I am capable of, because my abilities come from my whole being. I am a heart, a mind, a spirit, and a body. Just because my body is in a wheelchair doesn't mean the rest of me is caged, right? So to me, what you embody is a sense of freedom, a sense of freedom most able-bodied people forget, right? As I listen to you talk, and it's very emotional for me too, giving my background and what I am experiencing as you and I talk. But what is reminding me is most able-bodied people are in cages for themselves, in their heart, in their mind, in their spirit. They're truly not free other than physically mobile.
That's beautiful.
And what you're doing is helping them unshackle all those chains and truly live. Because if we don't unshackle ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally, we are never going to live free. I don't care how many times we say we live in a free country. Are you truly free? So talk to me about that, the feeling you get when you free other people and watch them take flight.
Seeing it just encompass their entire body it's one of those remarkable moments in your life where you can feel it in every aspect of yourself, and it's their journey that you get to be witness to. It's I feel like there's a pivotal moment when that comes, and it's when that person finally just lets everything go. And some people can choose to do that and do it in a moment's notice. I was not that person. I had this horrific thing that lasted 4 years and just kept knocking at my door because I wasn't getting it, that I had to have that happen to me, this dramatic moment for me to finally just take down all the guards and just let my heart be ripped open. And that's what most people are afraid of. They're afraid of, I don't want to let all that pain in. I don't want to, if I let the floodgates open, then I'm never going to get them closed again, type thing. But that's what you have to do. And when I see that person finally just give that up, it's that acceptance of, oh my gosh, that feels so much better. And I'm like, I told you the other side was going to be great. It is so great on the other side. It's that middle part, that working through it part, and the acceptance and the changes that you have to make if you want to become this better person or have that peace in your life. I don't know, it's something that I get to share in. It's not that I say, oh, I did that for them. That's not it at all. It's, oh my gosh, this person got it. Like they found it. And now that we found it, now we get to work on the steps that they get to continue for the rest of their life and stay in that phase, stay in that moment, that peace, that contentment. So that is I'm just so proud for them whenever they get there. So what I feel like now is all the work that I do, like initially was for me to purge and heal. And now, oh my gosh, it is for every single person that I talk to, every person that desires help.
That is such a beautiful way to think about it and talk about it, Carey. As we continue this conversation, what is coming to me is the need to be vulnerable enough to transcend our circumstances, and in that process become courageous, because it takes a lot of courage to put it all out there and open up in a mental, emotional, spiritual way to truly let the light in. And only when we let the light in can we let our light shine out. And so it's truly a process of embracing and accepting what is already in us so that we can share it out. And to me, that is the true transformation. And the fact that you are making it happen for others and you truly have mastered it through your own tragedy, that is powerful. Talk to me about what are some of the reasons why people struggle with being vulnerable. It is a very scary place, especially in the Western tradition, in a tradition where you are judged for how you look, you're judged for where you live, you're judged for how you move. The looks are everything. The outer package is so important. The car you drive, the way your house looks, the way you look, those are so important that people forget that there is a person there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like you used the right word there. It's people are judged on everything, absolutely everything. And when you decide to be that vulnerable and just let everything else go, you're opening yourself up to, well, what if I get ridiculed for the way that I feel? The fear of the unknown is everyone's biggest fear. If I open up, what's going to happen? So we're always letting fear control where life is taking us or where we want to take life. And the thing, if you can get to that point where you just open up and you realize that, hey, it's not so scary. Other people's opinions of what I'm going through is none of my business. It's what I feel. It's where I'm at now. And that's where you kind of like block off all the negativity of life and say, you know what? I'm putting myself first in this moment, and I'm going to take the time away from everything else, and I'm going to work on me. And people say, well, I have no problem putting myself first, but I don't see them doing the work in that aspect because that's too vulnerable. You have to get to that point to say, I either need a wake up call, or I'm tired of just going through my life and feeling all this negativity. I'm not where I want to be, mentally and emotionally in life. And when they make that commitment, all of a sudden in everything, you see this transition. And it's just amazing to be able to witness that. But that person has to make a choice to do it. And that's what it's all about.
You're so right. The person has to be willing to go there. And that means they need to have their desire for freeing themselves to be greater than their fear.
Yes.
And that truly is that psychological equation. And some people will never get there, but some people will eventually get there. Some are blessed enough to get there young. So however we're able to help folks get there, truly we build a better world. We build a world where people feel free and they embrace a sense of abundance, because scarcity is no longer a mindset in that stage.
Mm-hmm.
You come from a place of the ag industry. How have you continued to be in that industry, and how was that industry embracing you where you are today and the person you have become?
One thing I love about the agriculture community is that they just open their arms to you. When you have some kind of difficulty, it doesn't matter who you are, what farming that you do, there just are no barriers in there. And when I said, I'm not going to be able to go back to a normal job like I used to, it's just too physical and my body's not going to allow me to do it. I had cattle farming, and people are like, wait a minute, that makes zero sense. Cattle farming is so physical. And it is. But because of my situation, I have end stage traumatic arthritis. I have to be able to move, like force myself to move. So being able to do the cattle farming is also part of my daily physical therapy. And so that also helps to keep me moving. And what I saw within that, being able to figure out and find the help to teach me a new way with my new body to be able to continue in this industry, then allowed me to go out and help other farmers or ranchers with physical limitations. And what I started realizing is, as I was teaching them how to get through things, and providing them with the resources, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, they're having just as much trouble up here and here as I have been. Mm-hmm. And being able to get them also to the point where, either farming is the only thing that they've ever done. It's the only thing that they know how to do. And all of a sudden that's being kind of ripped away from them. Or it's a passion like it is for me. It's an absolute love of their life to be able to provide something for the people on this earth. They don't want to give that up. So one, being able to say, okay, here's some resources that I can help you with that will help you with your physical limitations. But while you are frustrated during these times and you're thinking, this moment's never going to end, I can't get past it, let's go through the mental aspect of finding clarity of, one, you got to accept your situation. There's something physical going on. Two, let's find you some resources that can help you through that, whether it's through, special equipment. There are people out there who teach you different ways to do things like body mechanics. Ergonomics is a huge thing that I had to learn with my new body. And then getting them to the point where mentally, anytime something comes up, because farming is like this, it's a roller coaster. There is no consistency whatsoever. So, and it's uncontrolled things in life, that like Mother Nature, the weather, the economy, the government, all of those things influence agriculture. So when you go into that situation and something drastic happens within the agriculture world, your low is not going to be so low, because there are farmers and ranchers that have so many mental health problems because they can't handle the highs and lows, and they just get tired of the inconsistency. And that happens even regardless, without physical limitations. So the people who, like me, who do have physical limitations, we're battling two things. One, we're battling the highs and lows of agriculture, but then we're also battling the highs and lows of our own body. So being able to get you mentally strong, where you can handle both of those, I realized, oh my gosh, I've got this whole other aspect in the agriculture community. It's not just the physical part. Now I can teach them, by everything that I went through, how to handle their situation. And again, it doesn't have to be anything like mine at all. But it's an odd thing that I ended up going. Like, I just never saw myself being able to do that. But that's where this whole journey has taken me.
And I'm sure that is very fulfilling to you. And it strengthens and lifts up the community in ways that is going to outlive your lifetime and your actual interaction with them, right? So that is the gift that you give and you leave.
Yeah.
When you think about all that you are being and all that you are doing, I want us to take your experience and lift and shift it to a slightly different scenario to see what kind of advice you would have. Today, I'm coming to you from the country of Belize, and it's a culture and society where families are not stable, communities don't believe in supporting one another, and it's truly a culture. I actually have a Belizean audience here with me. And one of the reasons I'm asking this question is it's something that we talk about to figure out, how do we overcome? So I want your thoughts on, how do we take a community that is in that pure survival mode and help them see that it is more than $10 today or $20 today for survival. You are a whole being, and there are things you can do to strengthen yourself and become a person who can thrive financially and otherwise. But for that, you have to make that human transformation, a transformation in your mind, spirit, and soul, so that everything else you touch is shaped by that sense of abundance that you have built. What advice would you have for a community like this to make that shift, especially young women who are looking to build a world that was better than their mothers?
I feel like it's all about perspective. Like, you have to choose to see the hardships as, I want to say, blessing in a certain aspect of it. I know those hardships can be very difficult. Money's not everything, but when you don't have it, life is really hard. And I think the women who feel like they want to make a change in this world, they don't know how to do it because their resources are limited, or they're, like you said, in your in Belize, it's very difficult to be able to do that. If you stop and don't think about changing the entire community, it's starting with that one person, and that one person can start with you. I think honestly that's where it needs to start. You need to be able to change your perspective, and what can I do in my little moment here, in my little community? And that's where you need to start. When you see someone, maybe in your family, maybe in your friend circle, that, gosh, I mean, they're not thriving, and you share your moments with them, you share your perspective, your clarity. That's where you need to start. And then all of a sudden you start seeing this line, you're like, oh my gosh, look what's happening by me sharing my story, my moments, my vulnerability. And I feel like that's where actually I started. I started with a blog and just started with my little community that I had, sharing those most vulnerable moments. And then I shared the lesson that I learned from it. And then it just started expanding. And that's where you need to start. Don't worry about the whole big picture right at the beginning. Just start here. Just start there.
Brilliant advice, Carey, and thank you for that. I am always trying to figure out, how do I take the Western experience, the developed nation experience, and apply it to developing countries and countries that are struggling. Because truly, the prosperity of us is predicated on as many people as possible around the world thriving. And when that happens, as many people as possible are living, embracing their whole humanity. And that makes for a more peaceful place, right? So thank you for allowing me to go there. And with that, I'm going to open it up to the audience here so that they can engage with you, ask questions, and make this truly live and vibrant. So Chris, you've been listening to us. Go ahead. What thoughts come to your mind, and how do you see this experience and this conversation helping us in Belize?
Hi, good morning, Doc, and good morning to our guest this morning. I always admire individuals that may have some sort of incapacity, and always have that positive mentality. It's something that I admire from a lot of people. Listening to her, I remembered it came to mind two young men that have some sort of capacity, but they have always been here in St. Ignace, so they have always been trying to better themselves. One of them is a disc jockey, and that doesn't, and he has been doing okay. So it's very, very admirable. When it comes to to us being open to our situations, what I realize, especially here in Belize, is that we are more closed. We tend to try to solve our issues on our own. But little by little, I am coming to understand that, and probably it is because of the way our upbringing, but little by little, I'm becoming to understand that sometimes it is better, or most of the time it's better to share your experiences, and by sharing the experiences, then you help others, as was mentioned today. So I think that we should start to do that more often, and I'm very surprised that she said she was in agriculture. Belize is an agricultural country. Our main source of income, one of our main source of income in Belize of our economy is agriculture. Cattle farming is very important for our farmers in Belize, and if probably in the future we can get some people that are in the cattle or in the farming agriculture business in Belize, and probably invite them to another show that you will be present, it will be good to share your experiences with them, because we know we have a lot of people that might be in the same situation that you are, or maybe in more difficult situations, and they don't know how to really overcome that now. So thank you for your inspiring words.
I love hearing all of that. And it's interesting for me, not knowing anything about Belize, to hear, I guess the real side of it, because here we don't see any of that. So I love that you share that with me. It helps me with a better understanding as well.
Thank you, Carey, and love your insight, Chris. And ultimately, Belize shows the rest of the world the tourism industry, the largest living coral reef in the world, the second largest, only second to the Australian Great Barrier Reef. All the fun is what the world sees. But what if we allowed the world to see where we need the help and invited the world to come in to help us become stronger and better? And to me, that is where our resiliency and our power lies. Our true power is in having the courage to show our vulnerability. So I love the recommendation that we do a separate conversation with the ag community and Carey, so that we can truly, without having to see each other physically, we can still touch each other and shape each other's lives. And I will take that on as my homework to do. And if you're so open to it, Carey, I will set up a separate conversation for us so that what you're doing can truly cross-pollinate a country like Belize.
I would love that. I would enjoy it so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Nandini, go ahead. I can see that you want to add some thoughts here. As a medical doctor, you have different perspectives too.
Actually, I was very surprised. Hi, good morning, Carey.
Morning.
This was, I came in late and, but early enough to hear part of your conversation. And what struck me was, you know, you said that agriculture has Mother Nature, legislation, and your own personal divides, you know, to give you strife in your life and your careers. And it struck me at that point that that is something that is universal in all aspects, because healthcare is the same. We have legislature, insurances, you know, and we always thought it was, we always thought Mother Nature was just, you know, that we didn't get a blueprint for the human body, unlike a car mechanic, you know. And I have this statement I tell my patients, you know, and how boring would it be if we did get
Right.
a blueprint for the human body, like a car mechanic, right? When they ask me, oh, how well will I, you know, how will my surgery turn out, or how will my disease turn out? But what struck me was the similarities in something that's so different. And again, what Kasturi, Dr. Henry said as well, about vulnerability being a problem. So all of these things are within the healthcare community too, who have a lot of mental and heart issues at this point, especially because of the pandemic. So even though you're so far removed technically from healthcare, I just wanted to say you created an impact. And I wanted to ask you, you know, for someone who is transitioning, well, not transitioning, trying to expand my horizons, you mentioned a blog. You know, was there anything else that you did to transition yourself, or to place yourself in a position to help your agricultural community, like I am trying to with my healthcare community, who are usually not open to being vulnerable or admitting our faults?
Yeah. So starting out with a blog, I did that because I was too shy and introverted to speak it yet. So that was like my intro. Today with social media, that is, you know, social media can be terrible or it can be great. So again, you have to do your own perspective. These days, that's kind of how things get around. But having that, I don't know, just starting to talk, to share, to do anything like that. If you can get in a certain community, or, you know, get those personal referrals to say, you know, she knows what she's talking about, she has some great things to say, being able to get it out there. Because that's kind of how I started doing it, is just started sharing these big moments, these big things. And then word of mouth started happening, saying, you know what, we've got this little event over here. I think you would be great. Can you just share 20 minutes? And that's how it began. And now with social media, like you can do an online blog on social media, easily, where you start sharing and sharing into specific communities where then they can get the word out about what you're doing. So I feel like when you make an impact on someone else, that's where you get the referrals from. That's where they're going to share, and you just keep doing it. The more you talk, which is something I had to learn to do, the more that you can impact other people. And then it just seems like personal referrals are the best, right? Because when somebody says, this is amazing what she has to offer, that is what gets people to listen. So if you can get those people to share, and I did not ask anybody to share it first because I was so scared. I didn't want anybody to know what I was doing. But that's how it happened is, man, so-and-so heard you and they were just blown away by what you said. Can you come talk to my community? And that's how it happened for me.
Thank you.
I love the question, Dr. Menon. And ultimately, every profession has its own pitfalls. And the more educated the profession is, unfortunately, larger the ego, and therefore lower the propensity to be willing to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is considered a weakness, right?
Yes,
Let's face it, vulnerability is considered a weakness, and you don't want to show your weakness, because the image that we have in our mind is if somebody sees my weakness, they're going to take advantage of me, and life is miserable enough. I don't want one more thing to worry about.
Yeah.
Correct.
And when things happen in life and when we don't have choices left and we are forced into it, then we have no choice but to transcend all of that and come out accepting our vulnerability. But when you hear somebody like Carey, who's gone through this process and who's helping everybody else transform, I'm hoping that this conversation, as it spreads across each of our communities, are going to make people realize I don't need to wait for something to happen. Mm-hmm. I have it in me to transform now. And I can learn from this lesson to be a better being. And the way I show up, it's going to transform all the things I'm doing. Because people get stuck in being successful in their doing, and they don't realize your being leads your doing. And if we don't take the time to invest in our being and show up in a way that our light shines for others, nobody's going to see us. They will only see our egos. So to me, that is the most powerful message you have conveyed today, Carey. And take a moment and share with us, how can folks get a hold of you? How can they continue this conversation with you? And how can we continue to embrace you as part of the Goldilocks community? Because you embody what we are all about.
The easiest way to get a hold of me is go to my website, and that's careyportell.com. Email, social media sites are all on there. And I am on almost every social media site that there is, I guess. So it's, I guess the best way to have your community and embrace every, into the Goldilocks community is, again, just allowing me to share. I love having a community where we can help each other. I feel like we're all kind of going towards the same goal anyway. And being able to have that community where you interact, you bounce ideas off of each other, share each other's work, that's where it all comes from. And I love that sense of family whenever we all get together like that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And we will continue to invite you in, make you a part of our ongoing conversations, just like Cruz and Dr. Menon have been today. And we welcome you to become a part of our Goldilocks community. And the Goldilocks community looks forward to being a part of your journey, because this is about showing up for each other. So thank you so much, Carey, for kicking this conversation and the weekend to a joyful start. As painful as the experience has been for you, you continue to make life possible in a joyful way for the others. And for that, we are grateful.
Thank you so much.
And I invite our community and our audience to think about, what are you going to do, having listened to Carey and Carey's journey and Carey's message today? How are you going to break free from the chains? Because you're more than what you do. You're more than your physical capabilities. You're more than your job. You're more than your title. You are an actual being who has a mind, heart, and a spirit. How are you caring for that? Self-care is not just a mani-pedi and a massage and a walk in the park. It is more than that. Are you truly embracing self-care in that holistic self? And how are you showing up in the world so that you are thriving and you are transforming? And in that process, how are you shining your light for everybody else to walk in your light so that they too can find it in themselves, so that they find their light?